The quantum world awaits us. Yes, we've been talking of privacy, then we were talking of trust, and now we are talking of AI and the emerging tech. But very soon, or rather, right now, the quantum computing is in its infancy, and that will throw up new possibilities, new opportunities, and new challenges. And of course, it will create new risks as well. So the world will be changing, the world will be shifting. How would it shift? And more simply, what is quantum computing? How does it create an impact? Which stage of evolution is it in? And how will AI transform itself, or quantum computing transform AI or computing in itself? How would it impact privacy? Would there be secrets or would there be no secrets? How would it impact the encryption we have? All these are very interesting questions. And we need somebody with lots of energy, the quantum energy as we call it. And we have exactly that kind of a person in Ramsés Gallego, who has an experience of over 25 years and is a frequent public speaker. So let's go and talk to Ramses.
Hello, and welcome to the Fit for Privacy podcast with Punit Bhatia. This is the podcast for those who care about their privacy. Here, your host, Punit Bhatia, has conversations with industry leaders about their perspectives, ideas, and opinions relating to privacy, data protection, and related matters. Be aware that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not legal advice. Let us get started.
So, welcome to another edition of the Fit for Privacy podcast. And here we are with Ramses. Ramses, welcome to Fit for Privacy podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be with you, with your audience, and to have a conversation around different topics and angles. So I'm thrilled to be with you today, and with the rest of you, of course.
It's a pleasure to be with you and have you in this podcast. So let's start with the basic question with this quantum AI, emerging tech, and all you name it, and it's there.
Yep.
The trust is on the spot. And then people are talking digital trust. What is this digital trust?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me start by saying that trust is subjective in nature, isn't it? I mean, someone is not trustable because she or he says so. Someone is trustable because we, meaning the third party, decides so. You can of course, do things towards gaining trust. Of course, it should be objective because you sound trustable, you look trustable, your actions provide confidence, of course. But at the end of the day, trust is earned. Trust is given by that third party, let's say a customer, or maybe a partner, or maybe a friend. So the same goes with digital trust. Digital trust, as per Isaaca's definition, is the confidence in the integrity of relations, transactions, and interactions in the digital ecosystem. So you can do things, and we do all things, countries and regions and companies, we do all things to gain trust. But to earn that digital trust is in the eyes of the beholder, they say in English, right? I decide to trust in my bank, in my cloud service provider, in my, in that the network is good, that transaction is encrypted, So digital trust is that confidence, that faith, if you allow me to use this word. I don't want to go into religion, but at the end of the day, it's about believing that everything is sound, robust, and solid. And it could be AI, and I'm pretty sure that we will talk about that in a few minutes. But the same goes with quantum, encryption, and the same goes with blockchain and identity management and everything in the middle. So digital trust and belongs to that special ecosystem that is the internet and social media and those devices that we carry on our pockets, 24/7. But digital trust is that confidence, I would say, that faith, again, if you allow me to use that word, in the digital ecosystem. Put it, yeah, absolutely.
No, that's very well said. It's the faith, it's the trust, and it has to be earned. But it's also subjective. So the way I see it is, you do a few things. You, as an organization, take a few actions. Those actions lead to some perceptions, and that perceptions then lead to some subjective outcome, saying this seems, because it's always a perception. This seems to be a trustworthy company, or trustworthy product. And now let's
Yeah.
get into the two elements, because not everybody is certain on what is quantum. Most people are talking of AI. So let's first
Okay.
demystify what is quantum before we get into the deep.
All right, very rapidly, because I teach on quantum around the world, so I will try to squeeze the whole discipline into the following. Quantum is that branch of science of computing. I'm gonna talk about quantum computing that uses the strange things and the strange laws of quantum mechanics and quantum physics. Let me pause here for a second. So it's quantum mechanics and quantum physics, the way the universe works, which is different from our understanding of gravity and the Newtonian, let's say, understanding of the world. Quantum mechanics and quantum physics applied to computing, which of course is what this conversation is about. Okay, then in our regular, let's say, technology, the way we use the internet and our pictures and movies and invoices and documents and everything, and are made out of zeros and ones, bits, zeros and ones, and then the combination of 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, etc. is our files and our documents. Okay, in the kingdom of quantum mechanics and quantum physics, there are no bits. They work with qubits, Q from quantum. And there's a very strange feature of the nature of quantum mechanics and quantum physics, that there's one state of matter, which is a qubit, a photon of light, that can either have a position of a 0, a 1, or both things at the same time. This is critical. Both things at the same time. This is called superposition. And because superposition, we can do things with that photon of light that are sometimes inexplicable. Sometimes it's very unique. It's not the way our, let me call it, legacy computing works. Even the fastest computer on the planet works with zeros and ones. Quantum computers, by the way, they exist today. They work with 0, 1s, or both things at the same time. That's called superposition, and it changes a lot of things that we still teach today at the universities. We still teach encryption in a way that quantum computing challenges it big time. Let me give it back to you, because I know that you have questions for me. But basically, quantum computing is another game in terms of how we compute, in terms of how we storage information, and especially for encryption. And this is critical for privacy, and this is critical for trust, as you may imagine. And for this conversation, especially for trust and especially for privacy, the way we create secret and keep it secret is challenged in a big way by quantum encryption or post-quantum encryption. Back to you.
That makes sense, Ramses. But I have a follow-up question on quantum
Of
because
course.
my understanding is quantum computing is a few years away or few decades away. But you mentioned that quantum computers exist right now. So help me understand.
That is correct. That is correct. Let me give you chapter 2 of my answer. Right? Quantum computers exist today. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And I'm going to say it again. Yes, they do. But they are in their infancy. But right now, if you have like $15 million, that's the tag price for Google's D-Wave quantum computer. IBM has quantum computers. Amazon has a quantum computing as a service. So they exist today, but they are babies. They are not universal purpose computers. They are not like the computers we have today that you can see a Netflix movie or do a document or or browse the internet. No, they don't do that, because they are a single purpose, let's say, computers. They are babies. They work with qubits, as I said before, but they are roughly today at around 2,000-ish qubits. So 1,500, 2,000-ish. The real big problem when universal quantum computing will arrive, and you are right, it is not tomorrow, it's not going to be next quarter, it's not going to be next year. You said, and let me disagree a little bit with that, you said decades from now. I'm sorry, that's not my perception, that's not my research. Certainly it's not going to be next year, it's not going to be the next 3, but certainly it's not going to be in the next 30 or 50 years from today. My understanding is 7, 9, 12, maybe 15. I know I'm giving you a range, but it's not 50 years from today. It's not 30 years from today. We will see, again, they exist today. So universal quantum computing will arrive Again, not in 2026, not in 2027, but certainly 2033, 2035, universally designed quantum computers. Remember that, and this is being recorded. So remember this podcast, and we can come back to it, years from today, and you will see 7, 9, 10, 12-ish years from now, which is very challenging, by the way, because what I said, it challenges the way we keep secrets, and that's very important. I think any secret.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense. So the guess is, I mean, of course, the technology is evolving, so it's always difficult to predict when it will come.
Yeah.
Guess is somewhere in 2030s, it will be there, a reality.
Yeah.
We don't early 30s, late 30s, that's fine, but or maybe a few years here and there. So, but it's not far away. It'll be in our lifetimes. Now, what is said about and what I understand about quantum computing is that it will change the way we do things. So when we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence, there are some limitations because of the processing capabilities, because of the capabilities in how much data and how much aspects, like you mentioned, zeros and one can we hold. But if we can have that infinite number of possibilities relatively from quantum computing, then the AI game would change. Can you talk about that? What would change? Why is it so hyped technology, the quantum? Because that's the next big wave, right?
Absolutely. I want to be cautious on combining two, let's say, the two buzzwords of the decades, I would say. When we 1 decade ago or 7 years ago, 9 years ago, we were talking about cloud. Cloud was the buzzword of the decade, and then we were talking about who cloud, when cloud, where cloud. And cloud, look at cloud now. It's there. I mean, actually, this is happening because cloud exists, and we share documents and we collaborate with documents. We still have to ask those questions, don't get me wrong, but it has been built into the fabrics of operating systems and applications. Cloud is there, okay? So AI is going to be exactly the same. Now is the time to ask about everything and anything related to AI, as you know, how to trust AI, which AI, how to guardrail, the right prompts from AI, sharing information, the sources of the truth, So, of course, but in 5 years from now, it will be one aspect more of operating systems. Actually, today, I mean, if you're using Copilot or Siri or Gemini or DALL-E or Grok, any of those, they are already now at 3 clicks of distance. Imagine 5 years from today or 7 or the next version of operating system, Windows, Unix, Mac OSs, etc. Right? So I want to be very cautious on while that has its own, path. I mean, combining it with quantum computing, which you're right, it's unparalleled. Let me say it again. Unparalleled computing. It's another game. It's another way of looking through databases in an instant. Why? Because of superposition that I described a few minutes ago. So, but I want to be cautious on how to combine quantum computing. Remember, they are not yet universal computers. They are designed for optimization problems, one specific problem at a time, not many. Again, I want to be very cautious on how I combine it. But certainly, when quantum computing when we get to 10,000 qubits, Punit, and this is important for you, for the audience, 10,000 qubits. We are not there yet. We are at 2,000-ish qubits, sorry. But when we get to 10,000 qubits, the Shor's algorithm was invented in 1997. Shor's algorithm is designed to factorize large prime numbers, to factorize super large prime numbers. Encryption is built on the quote-unquote impossibility of breaking or factorizing large prime numbers. Actually, when you and I will send encrypted messages, is based on the exchange keys that makes it, like in 1 million years, if someone tries to hack us, I mean, they need massive computing force in order to break that encryption. So we say it's almost impossible or super difficult to do that. Okay, Shor's algorithm, 1997, is built exactly to factorize large prime numbers. Still today, 2025, we cannot run effectively and efficiently Shor's algorithm because we don't have enough computing power. With 10,000 qubits, we will. Sure. With 10,000 qubits, we will be able to break that. So with that computing that allows you to break nuclear codes, any any defense strategy of any I mean it. I mean, that's true. Imagine the possibilities, but I want to be again very cautious. Imagine if you get some sort of, reinforcement learning algorithm or some sort of deep learning, machine learning algorithm on top of that unparalleled computing that the human race has not ever seen ever. Because again, even the fastest computer on the planet, the one in China or the one in Los Alamos laboratory in the US, still they work with zeros and ones alone, not in a superpositioned way. So you're right when you say what will happen when we combine. I don't know. To be honest, I don't have the answer, but the answer is like, wow. My answer is a wow.
No, definitely a wow, but there are 2 or 3 factors that come in. Because if we compare the computing age, let's say 1950s, 40s, or even 60s, they were large computers, they were expensive, they were not accessible. They were available, but they were not easily accessible for everyone. Now, in the quantum computing, one thing is we are talking about the power, the 2K to 2K qubits to 10K qubits.
Yep.
That's a journey.
Yep.
But there's also, you mentioned it costs $15 million.
Yeah.
And that is not accessible for a common person. So that accessibility will also need to change. So there's a journey on that. And then what can happen when that accessibility or when that power or when both of those things are there?
That's a very good question, and I want to be absolutely clear also on that aspect. I appreciate the question because I mean, remember that this belongs to a greater conversation, so I'm squeezing, my answers. But it's important to know that probably 99% of the people that are listening to this conversation, and I'm sure it's going to be in the hundreds or in the thousands. But they will never buy, acquire, possess, a quantum computer, acquiring it, owning one. No. 99%. So all of them, all of us. However, remember I said that Amazon, as an example, I am not endorsing any company here, but as an example, they have quantum computing as a service. So in the very same way that we use, Salesforce or Workday or SAP Online or Copilot Online or something, we will use. So most of the people listening to this conversation, Punit, will use quantum computers as a service. They need very special requirements to operate. Let me share with you something, and I'm pretty sure that the audience will be blown away by this fact. For them to operate, for a quantum computer to operate, the temperature of the room, so how the room is built, it has to be super, 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 super cold. Let me explain.
Wow.
It operates at 15 millikelvin of temperature. 15 millikelvin, this is the fact, is 180 times cooler than outer space. Let me say it again. Yes, I'm not wrong. 180 times cooler than in the moon or in Mars. So it's closer to absolute zero. I'm pretty sure that any data center that the people are listening to this using data centers, I mean, they're cold, but not that cold. You know what I mean? No. So they are very fragile. And they have to be almost like in a special lab, let me call it, like in a special facility. So this is why your question is very pointed, again, because owning one quantum computer, accessibility to that in terms of ownership, forget it. Accessibility to it in terms of computing and, research, in terms of using it for, I don't know, finding new materials, rare materials on Earth, or finding, hopefully, the cure for cancer, or actually in my sessions of quantum computing, Punit, and I want to share that with your audience here today, is that, quantum computing will solve problems that we don't know today. The problems, we don't figure out today yet the problems that we want to solve. You know what I mean? So it is magical. It's magical.
No, it is very fascinating. And that is the reason, because you also mentioned the encryption we have can be undone. The nuclear codes we have can be accessed. And that's where the question becomes, how are we seeing this digital trust dimension with the quantum computing? Because already with AI, we are talking copyright issues. We are talking many, many other issues. Everything. And now with quantum, where are we headed? Are we like no privacy, no trust?
I appreciate the question, because I'm envisioning, unfortunately, but I'm envisioning a world with no secrets, with no barriers, with no borders, unless, here's the positive, unless we embrace post-quantum encryption. So there's a solution for that. Of course, any encryption known by humans today, let me give you that as a statement, as a headline of our conversation. Any encryption that we use today, any RSA encryption, Diffie-Hellman, elliptic curve, any of the technologies that we use today can be broken, will be broken, let me use the future tense, will be broken with quantum computing. Unless, of course, we embrace one of the three standards that are already proposed. There are three standards on post-quantum encryption. And that's good. Probably people listening to us say, oh, that's good, Ramses, now we have the solution. Well, yes and no, because they are suggestions. In order to become standards, I'm pretty sure that everybody will agree that in order for it to become a standard, it needs to be embraced by everyone. I mean, you and I, we can travel because Wi-Fi is a standard. 5G, 6G, 4G, but I mean, we can move information around the internet because the Ethernet and the IP protocol is a standard, correct? Okay. For a post-quantum encryption to operate and to be embraced, countries need to agree. The problem is that in a very unbalanced world, in a world with different velocities, there are some countries that are so advanced on quantum computing that they have zero interest on agreeing on anything, and there are so many that we are so low on the future that we would like to move on a post quantum encryption thing. It's going to be a challenge. Let me put it that way. I don't want to mention any country, but I'm assuming that everybody can understand the big names I'm talking about. But for it to be and the standards are there. The standards are, and they are free public access. You can go. There are three of them, not one, but three. But in order for them to be, again, embraced, applied, the world has to agree. And in a world that I'm pretty sure that everybody with us are following the news, everything is happening around the world these days, geopolitics and, different problems. Let me put it this way. The world is crazier than 1 year ago and crazier than 5 years ago, these days. So with all that is happening, agreeing is not one thing that I see very clearly that will happen in a short distance, So, but I celebrate that there are post-quantum encryption standards. I do not celebrate. I'm very sad that it's a long way to agree on something about protection, trust, and privacy and defense of data. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if I look back and look forward, we were facing a few years ago, or say 10 years ago, the challenge of privacy.
Yep.
Then we had the GDPR. Now we are facing the challenge of AI at this moment or in this period. And people are coming up with responsible AI, ethical AI, and terms like that. And of course, EU AI Act as well. And then we are approaching, or we are on a journey or evangelizing on the quantum computing path.
Yes.
And there are new challenges awaited. Of course, as they say, humanity will always find its way. When the challenges come, we raise to the challenge and we rise to the challenge and make solutions. Right. But then you also mentioned something very important. Everything will be open and there will be no secrets. And I want to go back to that part. That's related to the trust or the digital trust we are talking. And I want to decipher it in two ways, binary, black, because we are zeros and ones, and humans also normally think black and white, good and bad, things like that. So one way of looking at is the current way of working would mean there are no standard, no secrets, and everything will be open. But the other way of looking at it is in quantum computing, or in the quantum world, let's put it like that, there'll be new ways of working, new standards, new things, and which will be far more secure. So which are we saying both of them at the same moment, like superpositioning?
That's a very good question. Let me put it this way again. Let me so I see your two dimensions, and I'm bringing a third one, if I may.
Wow.
Remember that accessibility will not be for everyone. Meaning, we are talking about for a world with no secrets. And yes, when I talk about potentially nuclear codes or defense strategies or intellectual property of pharmaceuticals. I mean, remember that those things in pharma takes billions in the making. Billions. I mean, 30 years to approve the new whatever drug, ibuprofen or aspirin or whatever. Billions, right? So, of course, you and I, meaning the regular user, will not have access to that quantum, but a nation will. An enemy will. Or maybe a super large corporation, that it's evil. What I'm talking about here is in a world that so unfortunately is stressed out. Let me put it this way. Again, I don't want to go into any branch of politics, whatever color or side of the aisle we are and the audiences are. What I'm saying is that the world is messy these days, and if you have enough power, let's say those $15 billion as an example, okay? And if you can have access to that quantum computing as a service, or on a very super intelligent AI that combines different algorithms, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about stealing data, stealing secrets, stealing nuclear codes, stealing the new formula of Coca-Cola, if you will. That's a joke, but you know what I mean? So the new, whatever you want it to be, it will be at 3 clicks of distance, because there will not be anything you can encrypt it with, to keep it secret, unless we embrace that post-quantum encryption that I was saying. So your question is very good in terms of quantum computing will bring a new way of working, speedier, more robust, more solid, and we have to celebrate that. And we will discover new pharmaceuticals, we will discover new materials on Earth, the new aluminum or the new gold. I don't know. I mean, it will be massive capabilities on research, massive computing power as the human race has not ever seen before, but also the challenges of a world of no secrets, no borders, no barriers. Already today, we don't have quantum computing, universal quantum computing yet, and we can fake basically everyone. I mean, you can fake any president or any religion leader saying any craziness, and it was not them, but you can fake it quite reasonably. Am I correct? And this is not about massive. I mean, anyone can do it with enough computing power at home, with a couple of good computers, solid GPUs, with enough computing power from a graphic card. You can make any president or CEO say anything on public record, and then crash their shares. So it's a scary world, and as you say, I mean, combining all those technologies with trust on one hand, privacy on the other, but also good new capabilities on the other. You know what I mean? We are juggling into privacy on one hand and trust in the other, and also solidness and security and privacy and assurance and risk on the other hand. And we are sort of juggling with that ecosystem that is very important to keep as societies, of course, that we need to nurture, live, and work in. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think if that's the world we are going to face, or we will be facing, or we are facing, depends on which segment you are in.
Yep.
How would an organization or a corporate govern this? Because there's the privacy challenge, there's the trust challenge, there's the ethical challenge, there's the moral challenge, and also the territorial or sovereignty challenge as well.
Yep.
So how do you recommend governing in this VUCA world, as they call it?
Let me give you the next answer. The book has been written. What I'm inviting your audience, and of course you today as a friend, but certainly our listeners, viewers today, is do not invent anything. Just do your research, embrace the law. There are ISACA material and other associations materials and vendor materials. So please do not invent anything. Specifically for AI, and that was the first part of your question, for AI, the book has been written. You have the ISO 38507, 38507, ISO 38507, that it's governance of an AI system. But you also have the ISO 42001, 42001, that it's management of an AI system. And if you're in Europe, or if you are wherever you are, but I mean, you listeners, wherever you are, we in Europe, we have the EU Artificial Intelligence Act. Good or bad, we can talk about it. If Europe is over-regulating, or is it okay, we can discuss it. But it's written. You don't have to invent anything. And the same goes on the second part of your question, Punit, privacy. You don't have to invent anything. You have GDPR, correct? General Data Protection Regulation. And if you're not in Europe and you're in California, you have the California Consumer Protection Act. Or if you are in South Africa, you have the POPIA, Protection of Privacy Information Act, POPIA. And if you're in Chile, you know what I mean? So don't invent anything. Of course, it takes time because there are so many angles: privacy, assurance, risk, endpoint, identity, the Internet of Things, in critical system, critical infrastructure. I understand it. I've been in the market. I've been a professional for plus 25 years. I understand sometimes it's too overwhelming, but please do not invent anything. There are laws, there are standards that are endorsed by no less than 155 countries. Endorsed 155. So I understand that as a standard, that's pretty consistent, So don't invent anything. That would be my my long answer. Sorry for that, but I guess I get stressed out when people say like, oh, let's write something, let's write a policy, let's write. Excuse me. I mean, you can get inspiration from so many sources already. Everything is written on AI almost. Everything is written on quantum. Well, probably on quantum not yet, but everything is written on privacy, trust, assurance, culture. Culture plays a very strong role in all of this. We haven't talked about culture, but culture, how you do things from a cultural country, let's say, or regional perspective, it's also important. So that would be my answer, Punit. Yeah, that would be my answer.
No, I think it's very well answered, very good answer, because it brings us to a conclusion also. The digital trust is an important element in today's society.
It is.
Then, while we are looking at the AI as a challenge, there is this quantum wave coming up. Let's put it like that. Some
Indeed.
people are in it, but it's in infancy, as you said. And then it'll throw up new challenges. But we, as an organization, you need to govern it. You need to manage, create that trust, earn that trust.
Yes.
And you earn that trust not through innovation, not through other things. There is enough material available, enough standards available, enough laws available. I want to not name them again. All these laws and everything is available. So make use of these materials, make use of these laws, make use of these standards. And if you govern it well, manage your risk, whether it's quantum, whether it's AI, and if you implement it well, and I would also sprinkle the flavor of ethics, saying, and if you do things ethically, you have all the means to create digital trust.
100%. 100%.
Now and in future.
You nailed it. Absolutely. And then governance of the enterprise IT. What you described is, at the end of the day, governance of the enterprise IT. Management is one thing, but governance, I mean, how you apply ethics, culture, of course, technology, processes, procedures, protocols. I understand in this very chaotic world that we live in, especially in technology, it's not an easy thing. But let me tell you at the very same time that it's possible. It is not impossible. It's absolutely possible. It just takes time. It takes the right mindset, the right approach, but the right understanding of trust, privacy, AI, quantum, and emerging technologies, as we discussed in this, half an hour conversation. That it was a blessing, and I appreciate that you had me. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm really happy because we have covered a lot of subjects and a lot of topics, and we have had a very good flow and conclusion. So now you're a regular daily speaker and you are very much in demand. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what topics can they expect from you, and how do they get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you for that. Well, I'm Ramsés Gallego. I'm from Barcelona, Spain. I am Chief Technologist, Cybersecurity with DXC Technology. That's my job. I mean, you will find me, with my glasses and probably with a suit. If you look for me on LinkedIn, Ramsés Gallego. I mean, if it looks like me, it's me. If it's another Ramses, it's not me. But you will find me on LinkedIn. You will find me also on X, or formerly Twitter. Ramsés Gallego, name, surname all together, Also, my personal email is ramses.gallego@me.com. Easy to remember, ramses.gallego@me.com. But in any case, probably, LinkedIn or X, again, if you see a guy, with a right pose and these glasses and, probably with a tie, or sometimes I don't wear a tie, but certainly with a suit on stage, is that Ramses? I mean, it's a pleasure to to get in touch with you. And again, I work at DXC Technology, but certainly I travel the world. Actually, my next in the next 7 weeks, it will be 12 countries. 12 countries in 7 weeks, 3 different continents. So that's what I do, and I celebrate the opportunity as this conversation has happened. So thank you for having me. But I celebrate going through stages of the world, talking about AI, emerging technologies, assurance, privacy, legislation, So in terms of topics, that was your request. Basically, anything and everything that has to do with technology. Unfortunately, I cannot talk about penguins. I don't know anything about penguins, but I do know, I guess I do know quite a lot on anything and everything related to any dimension of, again, technology, legislation, law, impact, and geopolitics. So again, it was a pleasure talking to you, and looking forward for the next invitation, for chapter 2 of this conversation, Punit. So I massively appreciate that you had me today. Yeah.
Absolutely. There would definitely be a chapter 2. And for now, I would say thank you so much. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you liked the show, feel free to share it with a friend and write a review. If you have already done so, thank you so much. And if you did not like the show, don't bother and forget about it. Take care and stay safe. Fit for Privacy helps you to create a culture of privacy and manage risks by creating, defining, and implementing a privacy strategy that includes delivering scenario-based training for your staff. We also help those who are looking to get certified in CIPPE, CIPM, and CIPT through on-demand courses that help you prepare and practice for certification exam. Want to know more? Visit www.fit4privacy.com. That's www.fit4privacy.com. If you have questions or suggestions, drop an email at hello@fit4privacy.com. Until next time, goodbye.